Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm all shaped up this week. I no longer look like Bear Grylls, so I got a shave, I got my hair cut, and looking at the length I got everything done, I'll probably have to go get it cut like once a month or something like that. But normally I try to stretch it out as long as possible. Just one of those people. Anyway, so we put out a lot of videos this week. So last week I said over here, and then I realized there's way more space like back here on this side, so we're gonna do them on this side again. Fuck it, this is where they're going. All right, that's where the videos are going. Special announcements for the week. So we did open a PO box. I mentioned that in the last episode, and I did eventually update the video with the PO box under it. But so we got one box from the PO box, and it was my favorite sack. It was bags of combos, which you can see through because of portals. So they sent me 2 bags of these. It's the only thing we got so far. Granted, we're not expecting to get a whole lot, but then somebody else said to me they bought me candy dicks that are going to be there soon. More combos, apparently. So P.O. boxes, again, in the description. We unbox them. Anything that's there live Sunday at the beginning of Subscriber Appreciation Day. So thank you for the combos. I've gone through some of them on one of the bags, and just as good as I remember. They don't sell them very often here in California. Other things, this week we have a slew of events. So Mondays you're watching this, right? There's the possibility I'll be doing a special event on stream. I don't want to say what it is, mostly because by the time you see this, it's probably too late. Second of all, because I don't know if I'm doing it. Like, I'm intending on doing it if it's made available to me, but it's not something that I'm guaranteed to be getting tomorrow. So we'll see what actually ends up happening. Tuesday and Wednesday we have Dark Souls 3. I know a lot of you have seen Dark Souls 3, the Japanese version so far, but hey, if you've seen it already, you should just come by and hang out on Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, we actually have a sponsored stream with Square Enix. They are sponsoring the Final Fantasy XIV stream. The feast season officially begins on Thursday, so that is why it is being sponsored. So we're going to be doing giveaways. I'm personally going to be putting in 2 Bennu Mount giveaways as well. And then on top of that, Square Enix is supposed to be providing a few of them. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's sponsored, means they're paying me to do it, but Final Fantasy, like... like, what's my reply going to be to that? You know, no? And then Friday, I'm actually going to Insomniac Studios over in Burbank, and Insomniac Friday, most of you can probably figure out why I'm going, you know. And Saturday, nothing planned. Just want to give you a little heads up for what's planned for the week. But anyway, on that note, we have a few questions to get to, and I have a cookout to get to, so let's get this underway. Alright, first question. Hey, Happy, I need your help. I have a huge amount of ideas for Final Fantasy XIV, and my question is, on which place on the internet should I post my ideas so the dev team and Yoshi P may find it best? So first of all, there's no one spot that's literally like suggested here. The official forums is generally the best place to put it, and I put that in quotes because... I mean, I have ideas. Thousands of people have ideas and opinions about how one thing should be done or how it shouldn't be done, and you know they compile it. You know, it's very rare that unless you have an idea that gets serious traction on the official forums, that it's going to get noticed otherwise. I mean, like I said, we all have a million ideas, so the best bet is the official forums. So that. Even just the general discussion, I mean, there are other things you could do, but I see things in general discussion, based on feedback, yada, 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 you know, and it's just based on what they read on the forums. So it's just whatever is relevant to your forums, to your ideas is generally where you should post it. All right, next question. Hey, Mrhappy, got some quick questions regarding never going to happen, but wish it did cameo weapons and one Kingdom Hearts question. So have a ticket to the next Padres game if you're into baseball. I am not. Otherwise, have another card that gives you a free pass to your next plumbing problem. Let's hope that's not anytime soon. One, if you could have any Dark Souls weapon in 14, which one would be? I'd take a rapier just because, I don't know, I think Red Mage with some sort of duelist type weapon is kind of expected, and Rickard's rapier, definitely after playing Dark Souls 2 recently. 2, name your favorite weapon from past Final Fantasies and which class you'd want it for. I don't really have a favorite. The Excalibur is the funniest, the most entertaining weapon because of its story with Gilgamesh. So if we could get the Excalibur for Paladins, I'd take it. 3, if Kingdom Hearts ever references 14, what kind of Keyblade would you want it to be? I don't know. I don't really think it makes too much sense to reference Final Fantasy 14 in Kingdom Hearts. Not that it wouldn't make sense. Obviously, any Final Fantasy game that has a beginning and an end, which is all of them, would fit fine. But it's more like Final Fantasy characters, you never really go to their worlds. You kind of just encounter them in other places. Like, you run into Zack at the arena for Hercules, you know. You run into, Cloud at the arena there, too, and Sephiroth. You run into, Tifa and Cid and them. You run into them at, either Traverse Town or the Hollow Bastion, you know. I can't. Oh, Radiant Garden. My bad. So you know, like we run into them there, but we never go to their worlds. Orin was in the underworld also, so I don't know. I don't really think I'd ever. Don't know what Keyblade, like it would pretty much be like the Gunblade that Gaius has, or maybe the hammer like Nero, like a hammer blade or something. I can't really think of anything too solid though. Next question. Mr. Haps, I'm glad everyone's embracing the again. Have a rat tail for today and make Bahamut proud. God damn it. Jeez, I'm in a Final Fantasy 1 mood. Alright, that's fair. What I really loved about Final Fantasy 1 was the hidden things you could learn in the game. People in the past said they hated Monk since his damage was awful, but when I played it, I thought of disarming him and letting him go bare fist. His damage increased exponentially over time and outdoes anyone else endgame. I was wondering if they might reintroduce things like this in 14 where you take off a piece of gear and go, holy cow, this is amazing. That seems kind of counterintuitive to the entire point of the game. If it's more efficient to not wear armor in a slot, then that probably means it's poorly designed. In old school RPGs and Final Fantasy and turn-based stuff, I mean, Monk was always like they're bare-fisted fighters. That is what they are. Whereas over the time, monks began equipping fist weapons, and that became a more regular thing. Other jobs could also do it, but I don't think I'd ever want a mechanic in 14 where taking off gear is the means of overcoming something. Because gearing and optimizations like that is probably the more important thing to me. Like, then there's no reward. Then at that immediate point, as soon as that becomes the case, then you have to question if it's really a reward or if it's just like some weird design decision or whatnot. As you said, MMOs are different altogether. But I wouldn't mind augmented or hidden abilities on items. It's just the day and age of us having to figure out those kind of things is long gone. Like Final Fantasy 11 had Carbuncle's mitts, which it didn't tell you what it did. It just said like MP plus 14, but it made it so that when you summon Carbuncle, his MP, the MP cost to maintain him was significantly reduced. So it did things like that, and it didn't say it did that on it, but it was like, what was the point in hiding that on the piece of armor? Like, were you trying to make people think it wasn't good? Or did you just not want to type all of it out onto the gloves itself? Like, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, it's cool to figure out, but considering the effort you had to go through, you obviously knew they were going to do something like that. So, in some senses, I would rather they make more RPGs, like full-on single-player RPGs that do things like that. Like in Final Fantasy 15, if you find out, oh, if I use this exact sword, and I follow it up with this other sword, they actually, like, they're twin swords. So if I do that, they combine and it becomes the same attack as long as I'm switching swords mid-combo. But it doesn't say that on the weapon. Something like that would be cool, but I don't think it needs to be in Final Fantasy 14. Next question. Hey, Hap, I was wondering what you think about cross skills for Red Mage, Blue Mage, Dancer, Samurai. I think those jobs are lined up to be added at some point. So Dancer, I don't know why Dancer has gotten so much, like, backing. Like, I agree, it is a very interesting job to imagine in the dynamic of 14, but it's been dancing, no pun intended, around with Red Mage, Blue Mage, and Samurai as a possibility, even though there's no mention of such thing. So it's so strange to me how Dancer has just gotten all of this fan backing, which may eventually lead to it being a thing. Samurai and Red Mage I feel like are up next. I don't know about Blue Mage still. Dancer, I still think that they're going to go for something that's like further away from what we're expecting, but they're still going to have things that we recognize. So cross-class doesn't really matter to me, man, because for all we know, these jobs could have entirely different functions. We don't know what Red Mage's function is. Like, what if Red Mage's function is a melee magic DPS? Then Conjure and Thaumaturge, all of a sudden, it's like, do they really need those things? Do they need Protect? Do they need Stone Skin? Do they need Swift Cast or Surecast? Or is their damage not so much reliant on spellcasting, chain spellcasting? I guess I shouldn't say not chain spellcasting considering it's Red Mage. Dancer, you know, obviously they're going to have the standard stuff. They probably have Lancer. They probably have Pugilist. Rogue, maybe. I doubt it. It's possible because Goad is always there. Blue Mage, no fucking idea. And Samurai, Marauder, Lancer, I mean, that's standard because it's very often compared to Dragoon, which, you know, Marauder is subclass there. So, I mean, yeah, these are possibilities, but I'm not willing to make guesses on these things just because they're so out of certainty, you know what I mean? And that this system will be updated, I want to get rid of classes, dude. I just think classes are meaningless. It's alright when you're a brand new player, but as soon as you realize how meaningless they are, you kind of get upset at how meaningless they are and how much work went into that system just for it to, like, culminate into nothing. Next question. Hello, Mr. Important Appreciative Comment. Thanks for answering my ninja question in the previous weeks. I don't hate ninja as much as I used to now. If I ever meet you someday, the ketchup Doritos are on me. Keep up the good work, sir. Please no ketchup Doritos. Please. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. PvP question, so have a few Fenrir pups. Selling them all. In short, what should a ninja be doing in the feast? Well, this question is going to be answered a little bit more on Thursday. When we get Feder Ward, it is going to drastically change the means in which we go about trying to burst somebody. I still think that while Feder Ward makes ninja more viable, I still think the other tools ninja brings aren't as beneficial as Dragoon. And you pretty much nailed it here. You pretty much set it up so you can Kasatsu. You basically have Trick Attack and a Kasatsu'd anything lined up, whether it's a Raiton or a Fuma. Generally, it's Fuma because it's faster to use, so there's less room for them to like recover in between hits. Dream Within a Dream, obviously. Mug, Raiton, Duality. And Duality Dancing Edge, by the way, this depends on how you set up your burst. Now, if you do it correctly, what you do is you do what's known as a 4 global cooldown into a 5th global cooldown burst as Ninja, where you line up the Dancing Edge first, and then you line up all of this burst with an Aeolian, with a stun, with a full swing. As long as they're stunned and full swinged, and you can get behind them for a reliable Aeolian, then that makes your burst a little bit better. The problem is it takes 4 or 5 GCDs to set up, and in that time, you can probably lose the game, or you can probably at least lose one member if your healer is, whether it depends on how experienced the other team is versus your healer. But you've pretty much nailed it down. After you've used your burst, it comes down to a matter of preference. Now that Dancing Edge doesn't reduce healing, or now that it won't on Thursday, it comes down to how much damage you're going to output over the course of the entire fight. One big thing is you can protect your healer with either Dotons or Hyotons. Those are very important. Make sure you're keeping Huton up with Armor Crush in between your bursts, because you don't want to have to take another 20-second break to use Huton. Also, try not to put your stun DR. It's debatable whether you want the silence or the stun nowadays, because the silence, if you're on the healer, it's realistically better to go for the silence, because the last thing you want to do is stun the healer and then have the paladin run over and only get 2 duration stuns. So it's debatable. You may want to switch depending on the target you're on, whether you really need to lock them down for a limit break, or you need to just silence them to prevent them from interrupting the rest of your damage or recovering from the rest of your damage. So it's a pretty big thing. There's a lot of thought that goes into playing ninja. I don't want to say there's more thought than what goes into playing the other jobs, but because ninjas kind of don't have as, their game plan is a lot less clear and a little bit harder to execute, even with Feder Ward. And especially because stealth is barely useful at all, which is one thing I still think that they should look into buffing, and I don't know why they don't. But you've pretty much nailed it. It's just that Aeolian thing's a possibility, and then, you know, we get Feder Ward, but yeah. So, I mean, I pretty much answered the question. As for your DPS with the animal weapon, it's good. If you're not raiding, I don't see a point in getting the lore weapon if you already have the 230 anima. Like, what do you need it for? Even a 230 animal weapon is probably enough to do fucking A8 Savage, even if with its shitty itemization. So yeah, wait till the 240, 245 one comes out. Don't even bother with the lore weapon, dude. Spend that on other stuff. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Thank you for answering my question the other day about raid anxiety. I stopped thinking, like you said. I've never done any 8-man content as healer and did Void Arc, and it went nice. I felt good about it and even had 5 commendations. That's never happened. Now I have a question. What do you think if I post this on Party Finder? Average players looking to start a static made with other average players that haven't done much before, but they have raid anxiety. I couldn't even answer this because I've never seen it before. You know how like you try to ask people something based on their experience? I've never experienced something like that in the Party Finder before. So I don't think it's fair for me to give you an expectation and then it be completely wrong. Obviously that can happen with any question I answer here, but this question in particular, I think because here's the thing. People have raid anxiety. If this literally gets 0 traction, I feel like that only furthers your raid anxiety, because now you're thinking about how much other people are judging you. Like, that's just what I would think because I've had raid anxiety before. So as someone who has experienced it in the past, that's how I would feel if I tried this and it didn't work. I mean, hopefully that's not the case, but the best I can say is, now that I'm not someone who suffers from that, is you try. That's the best you're gonna do. If it works, great. Embrace it. Make sure you conquer it. But otherwise, I mean, it may not go the way that you're intending. I'd say give it a shot, but don't go in with high expectations, okay? Go in with average as you're stating expectations. Alright, next question. Hey, Happy, here's some high-quality coffee from Costa Rica and a new primal of your choice. You just reminded me of the thing I forgot to announce. We officially have a coffee partnership with Double Jump Coffee. We have Mr. Happy Coffee now. Every month, I'll be picking a brew out of 3 possible ones, and that'll be our coffee for the month. This month we have a Brazilian bean, single origin, It goes well with dark chocolate, hazelnut, and caramel. So if you're having anything along those lines, this coffee will definitely complement it. Be sure to check the link in the description below. Back to the question. Is it possible to do 4 vs 4 solo and pre-made successfully with a Black Mage? It is, if the Black Mage is good. It's a very different kind of skill set you need to play Black Mage in the Feast. It's patience. It's understanding what can turn you into a mobile mage and how to burst people out when the time comes. Like a big thing, Thunder is probably your single best ability other than like Scathe and Sleep in the Feast as a Black Mage. Because the goal is to get a sharp cast Thunder on a target and then spread that Thunder to another target. And then just every time, just pray for Thundercloud procs. That's like a big thing of what you got to do after you get those 2 Thunders out. Praying for Thundercloud procs to burst people while you run away from getting bursted is very important. And then if you ever get a chance where you're free casting, you already know what to do as a Black Mage. So it's completely possible. It is very rough though. But I've seen Black Mages carry their matches hard. And this will change tomorrow with the lore weapon, but why does it feel like this is off? This will change tomorrow with the lore weapon, but is 15 as the hell? Oh, no wonder it's off. It is off. God damn it! I don't know why I did that. Actually, yes, I do. All right. Anyway, this will change tomorrow, but is 1578 DPS Black Mage with 210 on a striking dummy A5 Savage enough? You know, I guess with the 210 weapon, is that? Yeah, that sounds about right for a 210 weapon. Yeah, I'd say that's more than adequate. You can definitely beat. If you can beat Hummelfaust, you have the DPS to beat A5 Savage. Next question. Hey, Mr. HepA. Just followed you on Twitch, so I thought I'd follow it up with a question on Mondays regarding alts. Besides materia from Void Ark, what other advantages would I have having 2 characters at level 60? As someone who's plans to get another character 60, I'm eager to know what I should be doing to get the best out of him. So there's very few reasons why you need a second character at 60. One of the big ones is if you're planning on being a hardcore crafter, having 2 characters allows you to be specialist in up to 6 crafts instead of just 3, since it's 3 per character. Also, if you're somebody who does loot swapping, which is only something like top-end raiders do, and even a lot of them don't do it, which is where basically you run into a raid with you need all 8 people having alts. Every single one of these 8 people need to have alts and mains that are raid ready. You do the raid with 4 mains and 4 alts, and you give all the loot to the 4 mains. If there's absolutely nothing they need, you give it to the alts. Then you switch, and the 4 people who are on alts now go as their mains, and the people who went as their mains go alts, and you do the same thing where you funnel all the loot onto the mains. Basically, what this is best at doing is doubling the chances you have to get loot. One of those characters will likely be geared out since you have twice the opportunity on the same job to gear up. And the bigger thing is that it means that between the 8 mains, which is what your goal is, you're trying to gear up the 8 mains with this strategy. You have twice as many twines and dips and coats, so you have just more upgraded loot from tomestones. So unless you plan to do that, though, I can't really think of any other real advantages to it. Next question. Yo, thanks for taking the time to read this. Yo, I got you. Super hyped for Samurai, even though it's not confirmed yet. My main concern is if it's a tank. I played DPS pretty much my entire 14 life, and I enjoy it well enough. I'm not against trying to tank role more seriously for my beloved Samurai, but I have a lot of worries about performing in random parties. Ignoring the advanced content, is playing tank actually simple enough once you get your moves down? So performing the role of a tank is very simple. Performing the role of a tank at its highest efficiency in 14 is what is difficult. Warrior is very easy to just sit in Defiance, hold aggro on all the mobs, you know, do your maim combo, do your Butcher's Block combo, you know, use your abilities in between. But where it comes to the expert, where it becomes more advanced is where, as a warrior, like, okay, I need to be counting wrath stacks to make sure that I have enough for this burst that I'm about to do. I gotta make sure that I'm lining up cooldowns with every single one of these big attacks. I gotta make sure I have an inner beast for every single attack. I gotta make sure that I have some means of either dealing the most damage possible or surviving all this damage coming to me. That is where things get a little more advanced. But the basic role of, hey, all these mobs hit me, very easy to pull off. A lot of jokes, comments made about the confusion over Sephiroth and Sephiroth. As if to drive the point home into people's heads, the name of Sephiroth's theme constantly reminds you what his name is. You know, that's not the only thing. The name of the achievement for beating Sephiroth is called Veni Veni Venios, which is exactly... Sing the Sephiroth song. Veni Veni Venios. There you go. It's from the Sephiroth theme. They're just fucking with people. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. First time question asker, although I know who you are and you ask me plenty of questions on stream. So I have a homemade chocolate red wine cake with whiskey chocolate ganache coating. Oh, I just creamed myself. 2 questions. Everyone's talking about the fan festival and I really want to go. Is there a time of year when they do pre-orders? Usually during the summer. You can show up to Vegas and hope to get a ticket, but good fucking luck. My other question is, I want to do in-game content, but due to my work schedule, I normally play when there's no one logged in. What kind of workarounds would you suggest? At that point, you may want to consider joining a server where your connection will be worse and you use something like Battle Ping or whatnot. But it gives you a time with which you can raid with other people. That is the #1 solution I see people go with in this case. It may be a solution they end up going with, or you just have to keep searching on the American servers and hope you find something. Next question, class idea. Hello, Mr. Happy. Had an interesting idea for a DPS class or tank class. This could be something already mentioned, but I'm not sure. I came from wanting a single hand only sword class. So we get ideas like this all the time, and generally when I get questions like this, I'm not exactly the best person to bounce an idea like this off of, just because it's like I said before, regarding where's the best place to leave feedback regarding the game, is that everyone has ideas like this. I have an entire set of notes regarding making a Puppet Master tank. Like, I used to have entire notes on Samurai, and I've had people send me notes on Samurai, and it's like, everyone has their own ideas of what's perfect and what's right, and I don't want to say any of us are wrong, or any of us are it's yes, or it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of everyone has an idea of what they want to see in the game. We all have that fantasy, hence the name Final Fantasy, that we want to fulfill within the game. So I would like to read it, but it's like, ultimately, it's, okay, that's your idea. You know, that's the answer pretty much no matter what it is that you type to me. Top 5, interesting advice for a video, top 5 class suggestions. So I actually did a top 5 classes I would like to see, and it kind of falls in the same realm. So I highly recommend you check that video out. Next question. Hello, I guess it's a kind of question I don't know how to put. Some insight, then question at the bottom. For April, my birthday month, I'm trying to do a Minstrel challenge on my server where I try minimum item level modes on dungeons, raids, trials, and Bard. First week has been rough with 1 win, Pharaoh Serious, 45 minutes, 5 wipes. 1 loss, says Tasha, hard mode, DPS rage quit, forcing the loss on the second wipe. And 3 no participation. I've been getting a lot of comments to like why I have no gears for this, even they are 60. Is there a reward? What is the, even though they don't join? Kind of discouraging process overall, tells me a lot about my server. Anyway, 3 simple questions. Do I see this end even though the early results are really discouraging? I mean, that's up to you, dude. If you're gonna do minimum item level stuff, you really need to find like-minded people first, and not people who are gonna rage quit on you. Like, you need to have already, you shouldn't be like party finding and just looking for random people to do it with. You should have already tried to find groups of people interested in doing all of the minimum item level stuff. That was the approach. I think that was the direction your approach went, because when you're just looking for random people for it, I mean, there's some people who are gonna say, wow, I would do that, but look, he's got nobody else in his party, and then something happens and they just end up never being a part of it. I think that you took the wrong approach, and you maybe should have found everyone who was going to be participating beforehand, people who were really excited about it, and not just tried to find people who would just maybe wanted to. I'm gonna make minimum item level more accessible to me. I feel it can help me see some cool things with some good variety and challenge. Instead of doing the Alex 3.0, I mean, it's pretty much exactly the same answer. And 3, if I continue, would you like to see the final results? I mean, I don't know that I need to see the final result. I mean, ultimately, hopefully the results are that you beat most of the dungeons. If anything, it's not so much I want to see the results, is that if you'd want to update me on how far you actually ended up making it. That's probably the better thing. Like, I don't need to know how many wipes or the result of every single dungeon, but knowing what dungeon you started with, how many you got done, where did it end, those kind of things would probably be more interesting than just knowing, like, all the wipes and whatnot. Next question. Hey, Happy, first time asking, so have a nice day whenever you need one. I have 2 questions, but I am more interested in getting an answer for the first one. 1, do you think it's possible to, engine-wise, to give Red Mage a stance similar to Cleric? This is a very common question. Engine-wise, it's absolutely possible. Performance-wise, basically, this would have to change spells when they do this. Like, it would have to literally modify what the skills are. Like, for example, let's say that when you were in Cleric stance, let's say that when you're not in Cleric stance you have Cure, but when you're in Cleric stance, Cure is replaced by Stone. That would be a meaningful way of, then you can give Stone even more power because you've gotten rid of the Cure as part of the trade-off. And I don't think that's impossible. I mean, we can do that shit with macros. They gotta be able to do that on the back end somehow. I mean, we already actually do with ninjutsu. It changes based on the result of another button press, so it's absolutely already possible. And I just don't think that's going to be the direction they go. I really think Red Mage is going to stick to a single direction, and it's not going to be this omni job, I guess, that can do anything, but it's not great at anything. You know what I mean? And 2, thinking long term, wouldn't it be better for the in-game economy if you move away from the timer system we have now instead of use a system that limits the amount of resources a player can gather in a week? I mean, they already have that with red scripts, but I mean, you could do that. You could force people to gather less. But I think we have enough weekly and daily restrictions on the game that I don't think that the people who do enjoy gathering and crafting hardcore need any more restrictions than they already have. Whether the restriction is the resources that you have, or the restriction is how much you're allowed to gather or accrue across a week. I don't think we need any more restrictions along those lines. Alright, next question. Hiya, Mike. Do you mind if I call you Mike? I don't mind so much. I mean, people know. Second time poster, but I have a less formal question. I'd like to forego the traditional gift in favor of an IRL gift, depending on how you answer. An IRL gift? Oh man, as long as it's not your dick. Anyway, super simple question. Are you going to be at PAX East this month in Boston? Yes, I will, and I will be having a meet and greet while I'm there. If so, I'd like to buy you a beer, since I'll be there too. I figure if I'm going to raise a glass with anyone while I'm in Boston, I want to be the man that's helped us all our bards, all of our bads through all your guides. So I will be at PAX East. I don't know that this is necessarily possible, so a lot of the time what ends up happening when I go to conventions is all of my evenings are already planned. Like, pretty much it's like, oh, Saturday I have a dinner with X company, and then I have to go to this thing with Y company. And then, like, Friday night, it's our first night in, so, like, I'll go out with my girlfriend, for example, and we'll just get something to eat together, unless we then have, we're then invited to something else. And then Sunday, fly back, you know, so I can't guarantee have a beer. FanFest is a much better place to have a beer. When I was at FanFest, I bought someone a beer. He was, I think he was someone who worked in the Army. I don't remember his name, and I don't even know if he still watched my videos. But I remember meeting someone there who worked in the Army. I bought him a beer, and then I had a few other people buy me drinks. But that was just because they had a predetermined event. This is just the way what happens when you're a broadcaster. You go the whole day pretty much chaining events back to back to back, and then at night you get invited out by, you know, friends and companies that want to, you know, talk to you or whatever not. It just ends up being the result. So I don't want to promise that you'll buy me a beer. I can't promise that, and I won't be a dick and say, yeah, man, let's get a beer. But what I can say is, I will shake your hand, I will take a picture, I will talk to you, and we will have good times. That much I can guarantee you. And if you see me at PAX East and I don't look like I'm rushing to something, feel free to stop me, because I'm going to be all over the place that weekend. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. John Hua here from Tonberry, first time poster. Woohoo! Can I make a request that you put your Mr. Happy title behind the Twitch t-shirt? So what ends up happening with that, so you're talking about the Twitch shirt that we're selling that we've sold over 60 of so far. Thank you for those of you who have bought shirts, and I still have to buy one, and there's 2 other people who I gave them away to who I have to purchase for. So really at 64 shirts sold. What's it called? So the thing is with that, if I did that, the shirt only allows 10 colors, and while I'm pretty sure that the plain white of the logo is not gonna clash with the colors that's already on the shirt, it also adds probably another $3 of cost onto the shirt, which then has to be made up for in the cost itself. So then you go from having a $23 to $25 shirt to like a $30 shirt, all because it says Mr. Happy Gaming in the back. So that's why we have the separate Mr. Happy Gaming shirts. It's a matter of not, like, I don't want it to be an affordable shirt, but every time you add something onto a shirt, a company is going to charge you more for the shirt. Unless you sell them in massive bulk. Like if we sold 1,000 of those shirts, it wouldn't be a big deal. They would cost nothing, and we could basically sell them at a pretty discounted price. Like then it would be like a $20 shirt. Because the company's going to be able to churn those out for like, you know, I don't even know how much they cost per shirt to make now. I'd imagine it probably costs, like, with that design, like, probably $17 to $18 a shirt to make. With that, it would probably be $21 just for them to make one shirt, and then unless you do bulk. So as cool as it would be, unfortunately, I can't do it. Now, there's also a question here. If they are so concerned about the cloud motorbike looking weird while... It's not weird while flying. It's weird when it's at ground mount speed. So basically, ground mount speed is significantly slower than flying speed. So when it's at that speed, the mount just looks awful. Pretty much is all I could say. Why not just make them as fast as flying mount but cannot fly? Because then you have a mount that's it's so clearly better than the other mounts. Like, it is now a superior mount to everything else. You know what I mean? And you could just say, why don't they just make all mounts at speed? The world is already small enough as it is, and a lot of the mounts would look even more ridiculous if they were running at that speed as opposed to running at the speed that they currently are now. It works both ways when you have animations like this on mounts. Their animations need to match their speed, and you pretty much design them with 3 speeds in mind: stopped, walking speed, and full speed. You know what I mean? A walking speed meaning, like, you know, you have like auto walk turned on. So it's unfortunately not so simple as that, but I just like stuff when it flies. Second question, I'm not sure what final Alex released the relic step. It's going to be farm 80 material. It's not going to be the same step. They literally apologized for the length of the last step. This next step will probably be longer than the one we just had, but don't expect it to be like that. Next question, and for some reason the text is in... It's blue or purple. I can't tell. I'm colorblind. I'm fucking... Hi, Mr. Happy. I'd like to preface this by saying thank you. Preface this by saying thank you. I really appreciate the regular 14 content produced by Mrhappy Gaming. Thank you for supporting the channel. Now, as you may have noticed, this is my first time asking a question. I have posts 1. That said, your first time bonus relates to the question itself. Did you know? Did I know? In the patch 3.2 notes, you can find the following bullet point. Let's see. The time limit for the fates have been reduced from... Interesting. Huh. Oh, but what it doesn't mention is that when you complete one of these fates, it will cause another of the... See, I know this. I actually know exactly what you're saying here. So, what it doesn't mention is that when you complete one of these fates, it will cause another one of the 10-minute fates in the same region listed here to spawn. Typically, within 1 AOG an hour, you have to travel between the fates. So, the way I noticed this is Full Metal Alchemist and Making the Rounds. Those two quests, as soon as one despawns, pretty much a minute later, the next one respawns. So, I figured that out pretty quick, but I actually didn't know that Heroes of the Second and Taken, along with Quenching the Flame, were on the same list. So, this actually speeds things up, because if you go and do these, then it forces the next one to spawn. That's actually pretty good. So, yeah, I actually knew that, but now that I know that it's Heroes of the Second and Taken and then Breaking Dawn, everything's better. If I ever go to do those fates again, I now know to clear those the other two fates there if I ever need to get it to spawn. Next question. Hey, Haps. Hope your weekend was good. It has been. Can you do me a favor? Stop making jokes about smaller servers. Yeah, so you know what's funny about that is for today's subscriber Sunday event on Twitch, we all went to Zalera. And we made link shells, and we ran around leveling, and we were making jokes about how we have now more than quadrupled the server population. I mean, I'm just saying we had a few fun times. What do you think about the 200 210 set nerf will be? I think it'll be reducing the cost of all the items. I also think it will be a nerf, or they'll make the materials that you need for that part of the quest, like they'll add it to treasure hunting dungeons or something, like the actual like king's cakes and shit. I expect those to be added to either treasure maps or the treasure hunting dungeons. So those are the nerfs that I expect to see from those items. I don't expect you to need less unidentified items. I expect them to be cost less, even though that would also mean technically reducing the price or at least the value of grade 5 carbonized matter. Next question. Good day, Happy. Good day to you too. Hopefully you can get my post this week. I know it's coming in pretty late. Anyway, being that I know absolutely zero about crafting, I have a question about crafting HQ items. Hey, you're talking to someone who also knows nothing about crafting. Let's see if I can help. I'm finally about to get all my unidentifiable tokens, and I'm looking at either buying the 4 HQ items, 16 HQ items, or the ingredients, or having someone craft them for me. I don't have a lot of gil, but I have just barely enough to buy all 4 HQ items. So I hope you understand, you need 16 items. It's 4 of each item. Maybe that's what you mean when you say 4 HQ. You do need high quality versions, and it would probably be cheaper to have someone make them for you. Just saying. Hopefully that's the best advice I can give. Next question. Hey, Haps, how you doing? How you doing? I'm doing alright. I'm doing well. You doing good? I'm doing good too. Nice to hear. I have a couple of raid related questions for you today. What advice would you give to someone who wants to improve their raid awareness? So I gave this advice last week, I think, where you kind of like cover part of the screen and make it so you're not looking at your buttons. So I compared it to covering your keyboard with a box and then sticking your hand in the box to type so you can learn standard form for typing, which is how we did it back in my school when I was young. So I could recommend the same thing where you basically disable all your hotbars and you just look at the fight. You'll probably make some rotational mistakes, but eventually you get to know your buttons so well you don't need them. I know people who actually play Paladin, and I have to use Paladin as the example because it's the job the person actually played. They don't have any of their main combo skills on their hotbar. They literally only have cooldowns visible on their bar, and it looks so open and clean. 2, if you had to pick one situation which you could pick between the 2, you're looking for a new group to join in each scenario. Situation 1, join a group who's not as far as you, regress and help them catch up to where you are, or join a group who's further than you and essentially get carried through the boss they are past in order to get caught up with them. I guess it depends on, to me there isn't a solid answer to this one, because it all depends on what... So you're asking what I would do in this case. So joining a group who's not as far as me is something I would probably not do. The thing is, I would want to be in the situation in between. But what ended up happening to me this patch, because I left the world race, I didn't have a static for a long time, I joined a group that had no progression, but I had no progression either, so it was like learning together. Once I had gotten through and almost cleared 6, I joined another group, and we cleared 5, we cleared 6, I had already seen all the fight of 6, I had never done 7, but I didn't get carried. I know, we learned the fight in we learned the fight. I think we beat the fight like 4 lockouts with, I think, most of us having no A7 experience. So that's how that ended up going. Now we're on 8, and we've done 2 lockouts on 8, and we're like almost, I'd say we're about halfway done with the ad phase, pretty much. So I don't know, because I guess if I go back to when I joined D&T, I literally had no experience, and I had to do 10, 11, and 12 all that night. But what they told me, I said to them, hopefully I'm doing all right, because I have never done these fights before. That was my number one concern, was I wanted to do well on those fights. And they said, no, you considering you picked up 10, 11, and 12 in under 2 hours, and you've never done them before, I'd say you're in a pretty good spot. So, I don't know. I wouldn't want either of these situations. Like, I know you put carried in quotes because you don't mean carried because you still need to perform, but I don't know. I can't pick one. I can't, because both scenarios are all dependent on the person, and I try to avoid both scenarios. And what the hell is this? Uses a fully buffed fell. What is this? Uses a fully buffed fell cleave on boss with trick attack and hypercharge up. Only does 2k damage crit. Sadness. Vitality. Enjoy. Next question. Hey, Happy. Something a little different this week. Instead of an expert roulette, it's a gift of the Archmages. Answer 3 quick questions for a bonus ether oil. Alright. 1. Any word on when the primal ponies will be able to fly? We know that Fenrir is going to fly in 3.3. They haven't mentioned the rest of them, so no, nothing yet. 2. Would it be safe to assume that Centurio seals will in some way be used in the next step of the relic? I don't want to say it's safe to say. I would say it's reasonable to have them capped just in case. And 3, have you ever considered making more merchandise for Happy Gaming aside just t-shirts and hoodies? I imagine there's a lot of people want to have coffee mug. I mean, okay, so let's be fair here. Only reason I do shirts is because, like, I'm not a big YouTuber. I'm not a huge Twitch broadcaster, you know what I'm saying? So, like, just selling a few shirts here and there is fun. Granted, I have thought of that before. I just have to really wait, because whenever you do sort of mass merchandise production, you usually have to partner with a company like Designed by Humans or something like that, and you basically get like maybe $2-3 a sale. And the caveat of that is they're always willing to ship your shirt. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier, where the cost of the shirt, if they just make one shirt, is very low. Whereas if you sell them in bulk, they get made for less, and you can sell them for less, and you can still make good profit, and you can give people a reasonable price. So when it comes to a store like that, you have to weigh the fact that this company likely gets all the rights to your art. So if it's any art that you consider proprietary or it's owned by somebody else, you now need to work out a payment plan. Like, for example, Gilly designed, is this the shirt that's still here? Gilly designed this, for example, right? And if I put this on Designed by Humans, then they own it, and then it's being constantly sold. So I either would need to work out something where it's like, oh dude, I pay you one time, I can use it for anything I want, or I'll pay you based on sales. So there's a lot of logistics that go into opening a store, but it's been considered. Mel and I have talked about it before, and we're looking into options. So I'm not going to say when or what it will be, but I'm not going to say no either, because it's very possible we might have that in the near future. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, any luck with birds this week? I don't even try anymore, man. This week I have a few questions. 1, what is the easiest, cheapest way to get venture coins? Generally, buying them with Grand Company seals is the best way to do it. Are venture rewards worth the effort? There's not really a whole lot of effort. You literally just tell your friggin' retainer to go out and gather for however many hours, and then he comes back, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. 2, given the price drop in Red Materia 4, I'm assuming you mean Aim Eye, and Might, is it still worth to do B-Stripe dailies? I mean, look at it this way. They're worth 27 to 30k on my server. If I do 12 of them, what, I'm going to turn down 350k a day on top of poetics that I could potentially use to be getting my anima weapon done, and tokens I could be using to get my anima weapon done. Like, for me, it's still worth it. 3, what are the best sources of gil for a non-crafter gatherer? Challenge log, B-Stripe quests, weekly void arc, duty roulette bonus, like if it's like tank is in bonus or healers in bonus. And doing that bonus definitely adds up. Bonus. Treasure maps, always good. Even if you don't like hardcore gathering, at least level a gatherer so you can get that map. Those are all really solid sources of income. Next question. Hey, Haps, I don't really have a bonus in mind this week, so have a cookie. I will have a cookie. So what's your opinion on the word elitist being thrown around so much lately when you simply try to help someone in the Duty Finder dungeon run? The term elitist, so there's a lot of terms on the internet that are used in hyperbole, and as somebody who is guilty of doing that, I can tell you that the word elitist is very often used sarcastically, just because it's just an easy thing to go ahead and say. It's almost like when, you know, everyone knows, like, there's always that one easy to use racial slur whenever somebody that you don't like pisses you off. Even if you're not actually racist, I've seen people throw those words around just because they're fucking out of their mind and so angry. So it's almost like the same thing. You know, people get angry and like, fuck this guy, fucking elitist. Like that. Like exactly like that is how I imagine them typing it out on keyboard. Like that. So, it's thrown around pretty unreasonably. Like, sometimes, it also depends on how you approach the person, because sometimes people approach like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that makes you sound kind of like a dick. Whereas some people go, hey man, like, this is how I do it. If I see, like, let's go to a black mage and like Cutter's Cry or something. Pretty common occurrence. And you see him just spam casting Fire 3, and then spam casting Blizzard 3, and then spam casting Fire 3, and you go, hey dude, listen, you know, I don't want to seem like a dick, but I just wanted to let you know that you don't spam cast Fire 3. You know, you cast Fire 3 to get Astral Fire, and then you spam Fire 1, because you're going to get Fire Starter procs eventually, and it's going to change. And then eventually you won't even do that, and you'll be using Fire 4. You pretty much just use Fire 3 and Blizzard 3 to switch forms. And when you're in Blizzard 3, you can also cast Thunder, because you're waiting for those MP ticks to come back up. Now, I say that, and then I immediately follow it up with, I'm not, you know, listen to me if you will. You don't have to. I'm just letting you know that because I know that some people are going to, like, they're really going to go down your throat, and they're going to be dicks. They're going to be huge assholes to you just because you're deciding to do that, and I don't think that's fair. And most of the time, I get a pretty favorable response, or I get no response at all. Very rarely do I get the "you're a fucking elitist" response, because I want them to know that I'm basically just trying to prevent that from them from experiencing that with somebody else who is way less, you know, controlled than that. So that's the best thing I can say. I think it's misused, but I think that a lot of people don't realize how much of a dick they sound like when they get called an elitist. Next question. I know it's late in the week, but I hope I'm in time for this week's Mondays with Mr. Happy. You're here. Thank goodness. I have a question that the internet hasn't been able to answer. That's a tough thing. To think that I might have the answer. Wow. It's a simple one, so I'll get right to it. Is there a way to tell if you've bought modern aesthetics hairstyle and used it already? I've been staring at the hairdresser and I can't tell if I have them or not. It's not super expensive to buy, I just don't want to waste the MGP. Why don't you just check, why don't you check what hairstyles are in that? Like, know the exact name of the hairstyles, and then go to the, see, okay, I'm going to tell you something right now. This is probably the hardest question for me to answer, other than a question that involves color. I have not unlocked the esthetician on my main or any of my alts. I have never unlocked it. I don't care. I don't care for changing my hair. It's just not my preferred way of playing the game. You know, you're fine to care. If it matters to you, then absolutely, this is the problem. That's the thing. Without knowing how the interface works, that's the only thing I could recommend is knowing the exact names of the hairstyles and then going to the esthetician and seeing if he has them. Next question. Good morning, Mr. Happy. I think this is the second to last question, actually. First time asker and a long time lurker. Welcome to asking some questions. So I have a bonus of World First A12 Savage King Faust. If it's King Faust, I swear to God, just no. I'm running into the issue that I'm developing feelings for my raid leader due to always playing together and talking outside game. I've had other static members joking about us being a couple. The question is it realistically possible to actually continue to raid without drama unfolding? Okay, so let me tell you this. I've raided with a lot of great people. I've raided with people who were couples. And there's very few couples I can think of where it didn't in some way make it awkward during a raid at times. I think I can think of one, like, okay, so there's one couple, and I guess I'll just say the Narcos. They were, like, they didn't always get along in raid, but they always, like, it never felt like them being in a relationship was ever a hindrance on the raid, or it was ever a hindrance between them. They always kind of had their raid face on. They're an example of a group, and the thing is, they also didn't have that thing where they felt like they had to raid together. But this is different because these are people who are couples and then decided to raid together. And then I've raided with people who sometimes it's like, I can't raid without my significant other, and it's like, come on, dude, like, that means that if one of you leaves, both of you leave, and we have to replace two people, and that's a pain in the ass. That was an example of two people who did it really well, didn't have to raid together all the time, and still performed well, and didn't ever seem like real life things got in the way. It is possible to raid. I'd say it is possible to raid without drama unfolding, just because even though that scenario is different than this, that I still think it's possible. I still think it's absolutely possible to continue to raid together without drama unfolding. There needs to be boundaries. Like if this ever becomes a relationship, because you said you're developing the feelings, they're not, you're not telling me they're mutual. You know what I'm saying? Would need to be boundaries set up, and boundaries are really hard to do, but it all comes down to both of your personalities and how seriously you take it. Like, one thing that can't happen is he can't be telling you let the tank die, and you'd be like, yeah, well, you got a small dick. Like, you can't do that in the middle of raid. So just don't let that happen, and you'll be okay. On that note, last question, I believe. Dear Mr. Happy, Square Enix said in their last Q&A they pretty much put add-ons and mods on the back burner because of console limitations, and they're worried about creating a divide within the community. They didn't say it was because of the console limitations. They just said because they didn't want there to be a divide, like you said, between people who had add-ons, because the add-ons are developed by the players, not the developers. Getting those community-made things and then putting them on the PlayStation 4 is a pain in the ass. If Square Enix refuses to provide us with add-ons and mods, then why don't they just release the API to allow players to make their own add-ons and mods? I mean, for the exact same reason that I just said, pretty much. They're worried about opening a Pandora's box where people might make something akin to WoW's Deadly... I mean, let's be honest, there already is. I mean, and even then, people already have that kind of shit. Like, it's already available. I don't see why they would even be afraid of it. I just think it's really that issue where there's already such a divide between PS4 and PS3 players and PC players just because ACT is available on PC and it's not on PS4. Like, that alone causes prejudice, so it's hard to really say. I think that they're just trying to limit the amount of prejudice between the platforms in which you could play it on. How do you think Square Enix should go about making add-ons and mods inclusive? I think they should officially develop add-ons and put them on the PlayStation, on the Sony store. I think that is the only way around it. They literally develop the add-on, say, this is a DPS add-on. It is not optional. You do not need to pay for it. We are putting it on the store. It is free to download to add to your game. That is the only way around this I see, is them just flat out developing add-ons for the game and not releasing the API. But on that note, everyone, I'm going to get going because I got someplace very important to be, and I need to be there quite soon. Anyway, thank you for asking your questions this week. Again, videos, I said they're over here. Yeah, they're over here. I always have to look at my own recording because I can't remember which way is which, and then I hit the microphone and things are all over the place. So yeah, videos are over on this side. I just did it again. That's the wrong one. And then on top of that, don't forget we have all those events. We have the sponsored stream on Thursday. We have the coffee. The shirts are only available until April 21st. We got a lot of things going on right now, guys, and hopefully I can bring some more exciting content to you guys to make it all worth it. I had gum waiting for me for when I was done because my mouth is dry as a whistle. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I will see you all next week. Be sure to ask your questions for next week in the Dream Network forum link in the description of the video, and I'll see you then. Until then, take care.